Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Gagnon Atelier. This is the Modern Masters podcast. I'm your old pal, Tim Gagnon. Sorry about that audio mix-up there. I tried something fancy and it didn't work, but that's all right. We are glad that you're here today. Today, let me tell you what. I'm excited about it because, the name Modern Masters Podcast, that name has never been truer because today I have got Michelle Dunaway, and I'm super excited about that. It's going to be absolutely awesome. And so with that said, what I would like you to do for me is if you look right here, scrolling across the screen, you can see our little tagline there that asks you to like this page, to share this video, also to check out our YouTube channel. We've got a YouTube channel, and you can just go on YouTube and type in Gagnon Atelier, and that will send you to our page. We've got all kinds of content on the YouTube channel. There is a section just for Modern Master Podcast. So what we do is this video that we're doing live on Facebook, I will keep it on Facebook for about 2-3 weeks, and then I will send it over also to our YouTube channel. And so you can watch a lot of our previous videos that you may not be able to find on Facebook. Maybe you don't want to scroll all the way down looking for them. You can just go over to our YouTube channel and boom, they're all right there, and you can click all the ones you want to watch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on my cell phone here, and I am going to go to my Facebook, and I am going to do a watch party by going to that page, and I'm going to go to this video once I find it because it takes a little bit. There it is right there, and I'm going to hit start a watch party. And what that does, look, there I am right there. What that does is it's going to send a message to my entire friend list, and it's going to say, hey, your old pal Tim is watching this video. Click here to watch it with him. And so it's really cool. It's like a super share. It doesn't just share it to your page. It tells all your friends, watch this with me. So if you want to do that, I would really appreciate it. But if you have been waiting to see and hear and talk to Michelle, this is your chance. You can, I can see all your comments. So if you're watching this from the Gagnon Atelier page, you can type in questions and I will see them live, and maybe we can ask Michelle some questions. But with that said, let's bring her on. I'm going to turn my solo off, and I think I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. There she is.
Hi, how are you?
I didn't know what I was doing. If you close your eyes really tight like this, it looks like I know what I'm doing. So, Michelle, welcome to the show. I'm super excited. You have no idea. Well, actually, you do know because I told you yesterday. I tried to get you on this show for like forever. And here you are. I'm super excited. I said that already twice because I'm not. You have to say it twice or 3 times. But thank you for coming on. I can't wait to talk to you.
Thank you for that amazing introduction. I'm blushing. And as I said yesterday, I'm sorry I didn't see your Facebook message.
That's okay. You're a busy gal.
Quick message for everyone. If you don't hear back from me, I didn't see your message. Sometimes Facebook, it has like several different spam folders, and I just don't see it. Like if I see it, I respond. I try to respond to everybody.
There we go. I appreciate that. Because you're like this giant world traveler and artist, and you're running around, and every time I see your posts, you're in a different country, and you're doing different things, and you're plein air painting in castles, and you're going to Israel, and you're going to Italy, and you're over here painting, or you're teaching a workshop, and so we're not jealous at all.
That was always my dream when I was a kid. I recently ran across a picture of myself at, I think I was 10 years old, and I grew up in Alaska, and I had my backpack with markers and sketchbook, and I was going hiking out in the woods, and my mom took a picture of me just walking out the door. And I used to imagine at that time that I was traveling in Europe as an artist.
Wow. Neat.
And then I found another picture taken recently, a few years ago, when I was in Venice, Italy, and I was painting at the cathedral where Sargent painted, the famous cathedral there. And my friend took a picture of me, and I'm kind of in the same pose with my backpack, and it was kind of like
I think
the dreaming and the coming true. So
yeah, that's funny. That's funny. So you grew up in Alaska. What exact part of Alaska?
In Anchorage.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wow. So now you live in New Mexico, correct?
I do. Yeah, we moved here when I was in high school, and in the interim, I lived in California for a while and in Philadelphia for a while, and then came back to New Mexico.
Oh man, that's kind of a culture shock.
Yes, and it really was.
Shock.
I've grown to absolutely love it. The skies are unparalleled here, but it was a definite culture shock coming from Alaska.
I bet. A little too far away from the ocean for me. I need my vitamin C.
Yeah.
As in SEA. That's kind of vitamin C I need. I dry out. I dry out. My wife's always wanting to move the country. I'm like, is there an ocean there? She's like, no. I'm like,
that's how I feel about mountains. I hear some people are drawn to mountains or oceans. I grew up around mountains and oceans in Alaska, but I always have to have mountains near me.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I love about where I live in Panama City, we're like 6 hours from everything. So I can go to the mountains in Georgia, Tennessee. I can go to New Orleans if I want some real Cajun food, which there's nothing greater in the universe than Cajun food. And then I can go to Jacksonville or Orlando. It's all 6 hours, and hey, they all want to come here to our beach. So it's like it works out pretty good. So that's what I like about it. But I grew up in the mountains, and my backyard growing up was a mountain, and so. Wow. And I had a lot of snow, and after 19 years of that, if I never see snow again, I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah, we had a lot of snow in Alaska. I go back and visit now during the summers, but
yeah. So it's kind of funny. My family does moose hunting guide service.
Oh, wow.
I know there's a lot of moose in Alaska. So
yeah, they are huge. Absolutely.
And they're delicious.
I've never eaten one, although
you've never eaten a moose,
but I love animals. I do remember the first time I went back after leaving there when I was 13 was back in 2014, and I rented a cabin and stayed out in Alyeska for about 5 weeks and just traveled around and put like 3,000 miles on my rental car in 5 weeks.
Wow.
But I remember when I was first there, I was unpacking my car early in the morning, and there was a grove of trees, and on the other side, I saw something that looked like a gigantic brown bus, like a huge bus, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then it walked into the clearing, and it was a moose with her baby. And so I just carefully walked back to the cabin before it saw me. Got some fantastic photos of the little baby, but
yeah, moose are fun.
We have so huge. If you haven't seen them,
they are. Yeah, people don't understand. Like when we were learning to drive, because their legs are white, and so at least they are in where I was from in New Hampshire. And like a lot of people when they're learning to drive, it's like look for the eyes of the deer.
Yeah,
you see the lights. Well, for us, it was if the birch trees are walking across the road, slam your brakes. It's a moose.
Exactly.
People don't understand how big they are.
It's there. I remember walking home from school in Anchorage, and I lived in a regular neighborhood with, the lawns and chain link fences, and they had the police out there escorting us home because there was a giant moose in someone's yard, and it's not like they could get him to leave. All they could
do what they want. They really are. Yeah, we would have. You'd see moose walking in the streets, and it wasn't that. It was always exciting, but it wasn't like a big shock either,
Yeah.
And so, but a weird question, because I've done this, and I want to see if you've done this. Moose shed their antlers, and so you can just find them in the woods and different areas. And so, have you ever painted on a moose antler?
I haven't.
Oh, you need to get your hands on a moose antler.
Oh, I would do that.
I've got a moose antler waiting for me I've got a moose antler right there in that chest that I'm sitting next to that I'm waiting to paint on.
Wow.
But it's so funny. That antler, I don't know, I know what it's made of, but it's like it takes oil paint so amazingly.
Really?
You don't even have to prime it. You just paint it right on.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and you paint different scenes. Like I painted a moose in the woods on a moose antler. I painted a log cabin for somebody, and the sheriff of the county that I'm from, he wanted he has like all these just I don't know how many acres. It's like maybe 100 acres, and he feeds the bears every day.
Oh,
like he has a train of bears. He's been doing it for decades. He's got like 4 or 5 generations of bears bringing their cubs to him to get the donuts every morning. He goes to Dunkin' Donuts and he gets donuts and he feeds them. And there's a line. There's literally, I've seen pictures of him standing there feeding like this, and a big mama bear's up on her things like this, eating the donut. And he's got a box and he's handing them. And there's literally a single file line of bears going into the woods.
Oh my goodness.
And so we painted on a moose antler. We painted him in his house with all the bears and everything else. So it's kind of funny, but yeah, you should try it. You should get your hands on a moose antler and paint it.
If I find one, I will try painting on it. That wouldn't have been my natural inclination. So I'll try it.
Yeah. It's
maybe
pretty
next
wild.
time I go to Alaska. I was going to be going this summer, but of course with everything with the pandemic, it probably will be put off.
You can't go anywhere right now. It's not fun.
Yeah, I was supposed to be in Italy right now, so.
Yeah, Italy of all places. You don't want to go to Italy.
I know, no.
Yeah, that's.
But they're doing okay out there. I have some friends out there, and.
Oh, so they're doing better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have they begun to open up like we have here, or?
That I'm not sure of yet. I just heard their cases are down and they're getting a handle on it, which is good.
Oh man, I've never been to Italy, which kills me in my heart right there.
Oh, it's incredible. You have to
causes agony. And so I definitely want to go see the Sistine Chapel and see the David and everything else.
Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a trip pretty soon. We're going to go. The plan is when I turn 50, which is way too soon.
It'll be a great education for your kids. I mean, seeing the David in person.
Oh, I am bringing my kids. Just me and the wife are going.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. It is so.
It's allowed. Let me tell you what, empty nest is awesome. It's got its perks. Let me tell you, you miss it, but it's like at the same time, you're like, this is pretty good.
Well, you will love it when you go there. It's just everywhere you look, there's art everywhere. I mean, Florence is so incredible. So.
Right. Now you've traveled to a lot of places doing art. Would you say Italy is your favorite spot that you've traveled to?
It's hard to say. I mean, of course, like I have such an affinity for Alaska because I grew up there. And when I went back in 2014, I mean, I hadn't been there since I was a kid, and I was amazed how unchanged it was and how pristinely everything was preserved. And I just loved it. And the people were so warm. I met some of the native Alaskans out there who modeled for me, and they were so nice and welcoming. But I find that everywhere I travel, I love Italy too. Scotland and England was a big, just a big place in my heart. I went out there a couple of years ago to teach a workshop at Rosemary and Company. I know you interviewed Simi. And so she holds workshops out there, and their area is just incredible. You feel like you stepped into a Jane Austen novel. It's just amazing. And then I met some friends, and we road tripped up through Scotland and painted. And that was just, I think honestly, Scotland, I love everywhere. I love Italy. Scotland was one of my favorite places. It's just so mythical, and there are castles everywhere, almost on every corner, like you see Starbucks here in the US.
Right. Yeah, and that was I remember seeing pictures of your trip there, and you were painting in a castle. Like they let you in.
Yeah, so that was an incredible experience. Iliandonan Castle, which is the one from the movie Highlander. They've used it in a lot of movies. I've always wanted to go there since I was a kid. And so that was like when I was going to Scotland, I thought we have to spend a couple of days here. And so we got a B&B right near there. And what's great is they leave the castle grounds open 24 hours. So you can go. My friend and I hiked to go do the sunrise, which was 4 a.m. But, we're hardcore painters. So we hiked about a mile to the castle, painted. And then we decided to go back at sunset. And when we went back at sunset, I set up on the bridge, and almost everyone was gone. And it was just so beautiful and serene. And then all of a sudden there was a wedding procession coming out of the castle with these men in kilts and everybody. And it was so, and they're coming down and they're taking photos, and I'm trying to scoot over because, you know, I'm here on it. Like, I don't want to be in their shot. But then the people were like, hey, can we get you in our wedding pictures? I'm like, okay.
Wow.
And they liked the painting and they bought the painting. And,
Wow.
and so I, you know, posted a couple of pictures on Instagram. And as we were talking before, I'm not that tech savvy. You know, I don't really know how to do everything correctly on the internet. But I posted a couple of pictures just saying, oh, painting at sunset. This is a dream. And I had been inside the castle earlier in the day, but you're not even allowed to take photographs inside the castle. And it was gorgeous. There was a gorgeous, great room that I wanted to take pictures of and maybe paint, but you just couldn't. So anyways, I post this picture and I just tagged the location. And then the next morning we stopped by there. We were heading out of town, and I go up to the information booth just to ask them when the cafe is going to be open, because we're going to grab coffee. And this man says, and there are hundreds of people around, right? And multitude of staff. And he goes, oh, you're our artist. And I was like, I think you had me confused with someone else. Like, he goes, no, I saw your Instagram post last night. I'm the manager of the castle. And we'd like to invite you to be the first person to paint inside the Great Hall. Whoa. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I said, I'm here with a friend. And he said, yeah, she can paint too. You know, we've never done it before, but we really want you to. And we were planning on driving up north, and we just completely changed our plan so we could spend the whole day there. Nice. And I have to say, it was one of the truly most heartfelt, magical, extraordinary experiences painting I have ever had in my life. Because they set us up inside the castle, and the people that work there, they're all dressed, you know, like Klansmen. And this castle has such a rich history going back to the Vikings that we had studied the day before. And everybody there felt like a clan. It really felt like I had gone back in time. And my friend and I were invited. You know, they brought us tea and cookies as we were painting, and they had Scottish music playing, and they just made us feel like family. It was the most incredible feeling. There was a moment where I was painting and my friend Gwen Valentine was painting, and we looked at each other and we almost started crying because it was just such a beautiful experience. And at the end of the day, I told the people how amazing they were. And they said they've all known each other for 12 to 15 years. They were all family. And they said, we are a clan, even though we're not by blood relation. And it was just the most amazing, heartfelt experience. And like, art makes the world small.
Yeah, that's cool. So the first person to ever paint inside that castle. They don't even allow photos, and you're in there and you get to paint it. And it's from the Highlander movie.
I think back and I just get like flustered thinking, because I was just in heaven, and thank God I had brought a little tarp to put on the ground to sit on, because, you know, I'm painting on these rugs that I don't, you know, hundreds of years old. And I was like, please don't spill anything, you know. But
yeah, no pressure. Yeah.
Thankfully, I'm a very clean, neat painter. I can paint on white carpet and I won't spill a drop. So, so it was fine, but it was just absolutely incredible. And just the people, you know, everywhere I travel, I think I'm going to these places for the scenery. And of course, that's extraordinary, right? The buildings, architecture. But the warmth of the people everywhere you travel is the thing that gets me the most, you know?
Right. Yeah, because it's all about, you know, life is all about relationships.
It is. It is. And it feeds into portrait painting, because to me, one of the things I love is just how unique we are. You know, no one has your exact same life experience, your exact same background, your exact same, you know, sensibilities. But you know, you travel around the world and you realize we are all so similar on the inside. You know, despite our uniqueness, we are all so connected. And that's just, it always reminds me when I travel why I like to paint portraits, to show that duality of the unique attributes on the outside that make you who you are, but then the universal kind of emotive quality that's on the inside of like the soul or the spirit that that transcends any of the details of our life. And in that area, we're so similar.
Awesome. Well, hey, speaking of portraits, let's show some of your portraits so some people who may have never seen your work. let's start with, I believe this was probably from your trip to Alaska, maybe. It's such a cute little girl. Oh my goodness. Let's take a look at this one. Tell us about this story right here. You said there was a great story with this one.
Oh, yes. So
look how
this
cute,
wonderful little girl. I traveled to Fairbanks. I had wanted to paint the children from Alaska because growing up there, it's very near and dear to my heart. And I went to the Eskimo Olympics in Fairbanks, and I, didn't know anyone there. And I walked in, and the people were so welcoming to me. And one woman in particular, who's an amazing fur sewer, her name was Deanna Houghton, and she this is her granddaughter. And so she was showing me pictures of her mom in her 80s who hunts moose. She does fur sewing. Her daughter does fur sewing, and her granddaughter was there for the Native Regalia contest. And I could tell out of all of the vendors there, I think she was just kind of the main person, and she just welcomed me with open arms. She showed me videos on her phone about like Native dances and Native ceremonies that normally someone can't see unless you're part of that community. And she explained things to me, and just such a rich history. I spent most of the time talking to her and her family. I met other families there. So this is her granddaughter, and the reindeer skin that she's holding, or that she has wrapped around her, I got from Deanna, and the Eskimo doll I brought with me. So that was mine when I was little. My mom.
Oh my gosh, so that's your little doll.
And it wasn't one to like actively play with because it's all hand sewn. So it's all, animal skins, and it's really an artifact. When I took it around, I had that one and a little sealskin teddy bear, which is, and I have to say, like, I'm an animal lover, I believe in protecting animals, but this is a way of life in Alaska and the Native culture. So it's just something I grew up with, just like some people grew up with hunting and stuff. This is their way of life that they do. Right. So I had this little sealskin teddy bear in this doll, and when I took it around and showed it to some of the Native artisans there, they were just marveling at the craftsmanship, because some of these were, older. I won't say how old I am, but they were older. And so I had her pose with that doll, so that when I was her age, that was mine. And so it was really neat to kind of have that juxtaposition. And I believe her grandmother tanned that reindeer hide, and so it was just a special moment. And I have some photo reference of her little brother with the sealskin teddy bear and them together, and these are some paintings that I plan to do. But I've stayed in touch with several of the families that I did portraits of their children. And it's just a beautiful painting. I mean, and now that I know that that's your doll, that's even sweeter. That's just really cute. And it's just, it's a beautiful painting, the lighting, the fur, it's just, but yeah, now that I know the story, it's even better. The story, guys, there's stories behind the art. That's sometimes better than the painting itself. I just love it. It's kind of funny. My mother, tell you a little story about my mom. We are French Canadian descent, both sides, and my older brother did genealogy, and I am French and nothing but French, going all the way back past Charlemagne. Oh, really?
Oh yeah, there's nothing but French in this boy. And so, the only thing whiter than me is Conan O'Brien, And but my mother wanted to have some little ethnic in us, and she was convinced that somewhere down the line we had a little Eskimo in us. And she'd say, Timmy, there's a little Eskimo in us because look at our almond eyes. And I'm like, no. She just couldn't convince her otherwise. She was convinced we had a little Eskimo, and she wanted a little, just a little bit so bad. So this painting, it just blesses my socks off. Made me think about my mama. Goodness gracious.
I love painting all of the Native children out there. And, the people that are indigenous to Alaska, there's like 11 or 12 different tribes. Native tribes out there that all specialize in different artisans, and it's just extraordinary. So
it's a beautiful culture. It's just amazing, and to be able to go and capture that, what a blessing that is. That's just amazing. So speaking of blessing, let's go look at a different painting that you've done here.
Okay, and I do want to give just a quick shout out to her grandmother, because it's on Facebook, Deanna Holton, Houlton, because she sells her native crafts. So
I'm writing it down.
And she just does extraordinary work, like with fur and everything.
Nice. I'm going to check that out. I just wrote it down. Maybe she can get us some moose antlers.
She probably could,
She probably could. They're. I'm telling you, you're gonna want to paint on. Well, you're gonna paint on it once, and you're gonna be hooked. I promise you. I promise you. Better watch it. I'll mail you my moose antler over there. So, all right, let's look at this one. Oh, this is a powerful one. I love this one.
Oh, thank you. This is a very dear friend of mine. Her name is Akiba. We've known each other, now about 15 years. And
you're too young to know anybody that long.
Oh,
what are you talking about?
Thank you. I never looked at my age on the internet. I'm just kidding. So I met her in church, and she's one of my best friends, and we often pray together. And so there was a time in my life that I really wanted to transcend just doing portraits of people to doing portraits of people that I really love and respect, and I know. And I think a huge catalyst of that was going to Soroya's studio in Spain and seeing how, he did like master copies, different things like everybody does, but then he painted the people and the things that were near and dear to his heart that no one had ever really done before, the people on the beaches in Spain and things like that. And so I thought I really want to do that. And so, how I really, Akiba and I pray together often. And so it's one of the ways that I really felt like it would honor her the most to paint her this way. Because that really shows her heart. So. Oh,
nice. She's quite the prayer warrior is what you're saying.
She really is.
Good.
Really is.
I like it. Yeah.
We were talking about Wonder Woman before the podcast started. She's like a Wonder Woman sister. So.
Okay. Yeah, nice.
Prayer warrior.
Nice. That's really cool. Yeah. I just, I love how it, just fades into the shadows and the shadow in her face into the hair. It's just, it's striking. It's powerful. It shows the power of prayer. It shows, her intensity, her intention. You could just see so much of her personality in there. She seems like a powerhouse.
She really is. Yeah. And she's such a kind soul too. But and so this goes into wanting to capture those aspects that are completely her. And she always wears this little ring, and it has a little cross dangling from it, which is what that is on her hand. But then also tapping into something more universal, because everyone who has prayed or felt that desire, can relate to that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's just so many people can relate and have been there.
Yes.
Where she is, and it's just really, really beautifully done. And, all your work is so beautifully done. I love, one of the things that's always drawn me to your work is the brush strokes, and the textures and things like that. And it's like, some artists paint a little tighter, and it seems like the older I get, the more I'm drawn towards the thicker viscosity paint, the more textures, the more brush strokes, the looser. And, that's what I seem to be more like, that's where I'm going that way. And
that's how I am too, because to me, I want a painting to look like a painting, especially up close.
Bingo.
I want to see the thickness of paint. I want to see a little bit of all the artistic process throughout, which is why I like to leave some of the peripheral area, but also, and this would be a good foray into something technical here, is that a lot of people will email me and ask me, how do you know how to do backgrounds and brushwork and things like that? And it truly comes from, and this is going to sound odd, but it comes from not thinking about it so much. When I was starting out, I was really thinking about that, and I felt really paralyzed in that area. And then I realized what you do is you think about the focal point in your painting. That's what you focus on, just the same way as if you're seeing someone from life. I'm sure if your wife walks into the room, you see her eyes, you see her face, everything else kind of becomes abstract. And that's how it is when we're dialed into something that moves us, right? As human beings. So focusing, asking yourself as an artist, what do I want my main focus to be? And of course, for this painting, the eyes, the emotion, and then to me, like the tips of the fingers going up. And then everything else, if you paint everything else subordinate to that, the brushwork and everything kind of takes care of itself, because you're painting how it appears in the periphery when you're looking at your focal point. You're not inventing. And I think that's one of the things that people, misunderstand about brushy paintings, is that you're not inventing abstract shapes. The actual shapes of something look abstract when you zero in on a focal point, because our human eye can't focus in on everything at once. Whereas we're so used to growing up in the age of photographs, right, that we see everything in such detail. And so a large part of painting, I think, is relearning to see the way the human eye sees, which can't focus on everything at once. And so to be really attentive, and I think that's one of the big things about observing things from life. Even if you can't paint from life, sometimes I'll hear from students that say, I just don't have time to paint from life. And that's okay. But if you're running errands or you're doing something, study things from life as if you are painting. You'll start to notice the difference in edge work, the difference in values, all the differences where a photograph can mislead you. And then, it'll play into your painting.
Right. One of the things I tell my students when they're talking about, I can't paint from life, I'm like, do you have a fridge? And they're like, yeah. I said, grab the milk carton out of the fridge.
Yeah, exactly.
Get some fruit and vegetables, throw them on the kitchen table. Get your sketchbook out.
Anything from life.
Even if you're just sketching it, it's like draw from life. Or I tell them, I say, you got kids, you got models.
Yeah.
Do you have a husband or a wife? You got models. One of the things that I'll do is, like, I'm not a big TV person. And so my wife will watch TV, and I'll just set up the easel with my back to the TV, because I know she's not going to move if Grey's Anatomy's on.
Yeah.
And she binge watches it. So she'll skip a couple of times, and then she'll watch like 3 episodes of Grey's Anatomy or something like that. And so I've got her not moving. I make sure she's got drink. I make sure she's got popcorn. And then I can paint or draw her from life, because she's sitting on the couch and she's not moving. So if you're married or you got kids or whatever, you've always got models. You just got to make sure they're not moving for a while.
That's true.
So you got kids, put on the Disney Channel. But I mean, to me, that's how I can break that habit of, I can't find a model. I got enough people in my house. I've always got models. So that's kind of how I do it. So,
yes.
But I like what you're saying, how with the looser style, it's like you can force that focal point more as like a focus point.
Yes.
The human eye sees. We look at one thing. So if you were looking at her, you'd be looking at her face and her eyes and her expression, and everything else just kind of fades away. Like we can't see her shoulders or her arm or anything.
Yeah, and it's not necessary. Like I can put it in there, but I always think, thinking on selectively editing, what is necessary to tell the story? In a way, I love the beautiful intricacies of paint, but also I want to keep it as simple as possible to tell the story I want to convey in paint.
That is so good. That is so good. Getting rid of the things that aren't necessarily, and only painting the things that tell the story.
Yeah.
So many artists would have, every nook, every, stitch in her collar or her blouse or whatever she was wearing, they would have put on there, and it's like, it's not necessary to tell the story of this painting, because the story is right here. Yeah.
And, conversely, if I was doing a portrait of someone that was wearing a blouse like that, but it was passed down from their grandmother, and I want that part of the narrative, then I might put that in there. It all depends on what your story is. So this was just about her emotion and her face.
That is so good. Guys, I hope you're paying attention, because that was deep, good meat. That wasn't milk. That was meat. That was good stuff. Trim the fat, get to the good stuff. Boom. That is, sometimes it's those little nuggets that you can get by talking to artists that can change everything in the way that you go about your paintings. You know, a lot of my viewers are hobbyist artists that are learning, or they're thinking the transition to full-time artists, and they want to know things. But that little nugget you just gave right there was very informative and very good. So I hope you guys are taking notes. Take notes. I got my notes right here. So if you see my bald head, it's because I'm taking notes. All right.
That's why I love to teach. I love to help students push through those barriers, and because we all have them. I had them too, and I had great teachers and that helped me to push through those. And so it's just important to constantly pass that on.
Nice. Now, speaking of your teaching, from your teaching classes, you met somebody, and it was a big surprise. You had a big shock moment, and now you're great friends with her. And she has become a great patron of yours as well, and a great friend. And so I'm going to show this people. These, my viewers might recognize her. They may not, depending on the age bracket that's watching. But my mother would be geeking out so bad. And I'm sure my Aunt Helen will too. My Auntie Helen's probably going to see this and, oh my God. So be prepared. But here's the picture. And that is you with Miss Jane Seymour.
Yes. Lovely.
And tell us about how she snuck up behind you and you turned around. Tell us that story.
Yeah. So I was, this was probably, when was it? 15 years ago or so. But I was doing a painting demonstration at a school in California. And she was taking a watercolor class downstairs. So it was a school that had several classes going on. I didn't realize that their class had come in to into our class. And so I was finishing up my demo, and students were dispersing to go work on their easels, and I was doing some last minute touches. And I just heard a lovely British accent behind me say, "Oh, I love your painting. Would you come and teach me some art lessons at my home?" And I turned around, and it was Jane. And I was really thrilled. And I'm not one to, put any stock in celebrityism or anything like that. To me, people are people. But she's someone I admired for a long time, and I loved her movies when I was younger. And so it was kind of really.
You were addicted to Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, admit it.
I was a fan, yes. And also Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger, things like that. I really liked. She was just, there's certain writers, authors, that maybe even other people wouldn't know about, but to me would be very special to me. She was one of those people. And so it was really kind of neat to meet her. And I didn't realize that she was such an avid painter and art enthusiast herself. And her favorite painter is John Singer Sargent, and so is mine. And so, we painted together over the course of a couple years, and then we just became really close friends. We still paint together, and so I usually go out and visit her when I'm out in California. And she's commissioned, I think this is the 6th painting she's commissioned. I have one other one that I'm going to be working on in my studio now that my shoulder's getting better. And so it's just
you're ending up painting her entire family.
Huh?
You've painted her entire family at this point, just about.
Almost, yeah.
Nice. Well, that's really cool then.
Yeah,
one think about it,
that I haven't painted yet.
Is that the one you're painting next?
Yeah, maybe. So what was kind of neat, and I didn't realize because I just figured a lot of people had painted her. She said when we unveiled this painting, we unveiled it in Beverly Hills at her Open Hearts benefit gala. Mm-hmm. And this was the first painting of herself she'd ever commissioned.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't realize that. I'm kind of glad I didn't know that beforehand. I might have been a little nervous. And her granddaughters, Willa and Luna, are in it. Her daughters. And
that and that's the thing. That's what's so special about it. It's not just her by herself. It's got anytime you can have grandbabies involved.
Yeah,
that's a great thing.
They were so great. So it was just a joy. I love doing portrait commissions. I know not every artist loves it, but I'm definitely making more time to do that. I kind of just eased into it, and then I never really advertised it, but it was more of a word of mouth kind of thing. Mm-hmm. but I love it. There's just, you get to be part of someone's story. And there've been times I've been over to her house since then, and the little girls, when they come over and they see themselves in the painting, you can see something in their eyes. It's like influencing how they see themselves in a positive way. And that to me just gives me goosebumps,
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful.
It was incredible having her see it and respond to it for the first time, because she cried and her sisters cried. And but seeing the little kids see themselves, they were just like, oh my gosh, that's me. That's
That's
just incredible. There's like a little video I put on Facebook that Jane sent me from her cell phone of the children seeing it for the first time. And so that's on there, you can look around for it on my timeline, but it's really pretty.
Neat. I'm going to look that up, right? I'm going to look that right when we get off. That's pretty neat.
One of the littlest ones gave me the best compliment, because it's so unfiltered. She said, she looked at it, she goes, holy guacamole. That's the best.
What do they say? Kids and pets, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Kids and pets. I remember my dog Samson, God rest his soul, he's passed, but my dog Samson gave me, he's an English bulldog, or he was an English bulldog. He gave me the best artist compliment you could ever had. I had done this portrait, and it was my dog suddenly, we thought it was like he was afraid of thunder, because we get a lot of thunderstorms in Florida.
Yeah.
And this dog started to just scream and howl and cry. And because we had like a mud room, and that was the dog's room. And so at night we would it was like a big kennel for him. We'd put the dogs in there, and Samson would just start screaming and crying. And he literally ate the door to get out of the room. And this wasn't a small door. Wow. I made like 2x4s, this giant like saloon gate that locked. He ate it, trying to get out of this room, screaming in the middle of the night. Then I'm like, what is going on? So we couldn't figure out, we literally got him doggy Prozac to calm him down. It didn't affect him at all, because he was this hoss of a beast of a dog, and couldn't get him to calm down, couldn't figure out what was wrong. And then I noticed it, because before I built the studio that I'm in right now, the doggy room was my art studio. And I had a life-size portrait of a pastor in the room with him. And he thought there was a big scary man in my bedroom at night, Dad.
Oh, wow.
He was terrified. He was like, get me away from this scary man. I don't know. There's a man in my room.
It's kind of a compliment to your painting, though. I thought it was real.
It's real. So I was like, and we moved the painting out. That was the end of that. And then, other things happened. He was still scared, but then he figured out, hey, if I cry enough, I can get out of the room. So he just kept doing it. But yeah, for a while, I was like, oh, I think he's afraid of the painting.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah,
that's a compliment when an animal looks at a painting and they think it's real. I always think when I'm plein air painting and a bug tries to fly into the sky in my painting, that is a compliment.
Yeah. That's funny.
Which happens, anyone who's playing.
Yeah, that can happen. So this was a commission piece. I'm gonna get you here, because I want to talk to you about this, because when you do a commission portrait, someone calls you up, or they email you, or they contact you, or however they contact you, and they say, I want to hire you for a painting of my father, my mother, me, whoever. Take us through your process from they've contacted you to here's your painting. Like, how do you go about it? What
that's a good question. That's something that a lot of students ask, and I've answered privately, but not publicly. So, there's a lot of ways to do it. So this is just my way that I've found through, doing it over the years is, so the first thing I do is set up a meeting, and I prefer to set up a meeting in person if I can, if not, do it over the phone or video chat. But I always like to meet with the person and kind of see what their expectations are, get a feel for the whole feeling of what they're looking for. And, just so that we're on the same page, basically. And then, you disappeared off the screen. Oh, that's right. You told me.
Yep. I can still hear you. You're good.
Make sure I didn't lose you.
I gave you the whole screen.
So, you can see there's a little Sargent copy from a museum on my easel. he looks like an art critic staring at me. No, just kidding. Yeah, so I like to really set up a meeting, in person on the phone, get to know the person, get to know what they're, looking for. And I always like to take my own photographs. Very, very rarely have I painted from someone else's photographs. And one exception was a man that contacted me and wanted me to paint his daughter. And she was older, and he wanted me to paint her when she was younger. And I said, I don't really work from other people's photographs. And he was very modest, but he was an amazing photographer. And he said, well, I have this photograph and it reminds me of one of your paintings. So can I send it to you to show? And that was one of the exceptions I made, because it looked just like a photograph I would have taken, which was, had all the information I needed in it. But yeah, so generally I like to take my own photographs and do a study from life if possible. Ideally, I would love to do the whole painting from life. Of course, what artist wouldn't? But a lot of times people's schedules just don't allow that, other people's and even my own sometimes. So a lot of times what I'll try to do is get a quick sketch done from life between an hour and 3 hours long, a head study where I can really study someone's skin tones. And I, that's set up at a later date. If the meeting goes well and we decide to, go ahead with the commission and kind of everything is gelling well, then I'll do a day at their home. I like to go to someone's environment rather than have them come to mine, just because people are most relaxed in their own environment. And it's really essential to not just get reference as an artist, but I find it's very essential to spend time around the person. So I like to schedule like a painting session, a lunch, and then, maybe a photo session either that day or maybe the next day. So to spend a couple days at least with the client, especially if it's someone you've never met before. And to me, the most information I get is during the lunch or the talk, because people will do subtle mannerisms when they're not aware they're being looked at. And as artists, we're paying attention to everything. I don't tell the client that I'm paying attention to that because I don't want to make them self-conscious, but it's really essential for me to see, how do they tilt their head when they're not aware they're being photographed? How do they hold their hands? What is their body language? These are the things that will make them them. So I learned really early on when I was in my 20s, doing commissions from people who would give me a photograph. I could get it to look just like the photograph, but sometimes it maybe didn't feel like the person. And I didn't know because I hadn't spent time around that person. And so now I really require that. And if for some reason I can't spend time around the person, say it's a surprise gift for someone, I'll ask the person, can you send me some home video from your phone? So I see the person moving, I see them interacting with their loved one, so I can get a sense of who they are. And that is so essential to me. Because as an artist, we have to get all the shapes right, the anatomy, painting is really getting those abstract shapes that look like the person, right? Mm-hmm. But on the other vein, it's like really getting with portrait commissions, it's getting a sense of who they are. And, this is something that's going to be an heirloom in their family for years to come or generations. And so, you really want to capture their characteristics. And, so for instance, I know that going back to the portrait of Jane Seymour, I know her well. And so when I did the portrait, there's certain ways she tilts her head, a certain kind of smile she gets to her face, that's in front of the camera and off of the camera. And to me, I really wanted to capture, her in her natural state that maybe not a lot of people see. And there's a real
right. So you were trying to capture the off-camera Jane Seymour.
Exactly. Well, and the thing is, because she's a stunningly beautiful woman, right? One of the most beautiful women in the world. So I couldn't paint a bad picture of her because of just who she is. She looks great in every photograph. But I wanted to capture something of her, not just how she looks. And that's the difference between doing a portrait commission and, well, even for my gallery work, I want to capture something about who the person is too. So one of the most special moments before we're at the gala, it's behind, a barrier, so no one could see it. She hadn't seen it yet. And I brought her two sisters from England were there. And I brought them behind to look at it because, you know, I'm hoping I captured what I wanted to capture. But, you know, as artists, we never know for sure until we get the reaction. And it was so beautiful because their sisters just started crying and they said, this is Jane. This is the Jane we have known all our lives. This is this is a personal side of her that she doesn't show to everybody. And so that to me was like success then to have captured that. So anyways, going off on a tangent, sorry about the thought process.
Oh, that's all right. We love it.
But I think that's really key. So, you know, after I get the study, going back to the technical side, after I get the study, after I get the photographs, and I might shoot, you know, 300 or 400 photographs in different poses, different, you know, just to get a sense of the person.
That's interesting. Yeah. So you're shooting that many photos from different angles, from different.
I am. So generally there's maybe a few different ideas someone wants, but it kind of, you know, we just both know when you get into the photo session, you spend time around each other and you've already painted from life. Sometimes you'll just hit a certain thing that's magic. And so we'll spend time in that certain pose or lighting. And what I'll do at that time is, you know, I'll show the client on my camera what I'm getting and what I really like. And usually they trust me with that, you know, my sensibilities as an artist.
Right.
And then I'll take tons of photos with very slight head tilt increments. And this is something that when I've shared with students, they, you know, hadn't thought about. So if you like the lighting and someone's sitting here, I'll have them like turn their head like this, just slightly, and take subtle different photographs because we're all so particular about the angles of our face, right? So to someone else, you know, we've all had it where someone else goes, this is a great photograph of you. And you're like, oh, really? I don't like how I look. So I want to give like all those little adjustments for the client to view. And then I'll go on my computer and I'll, you know, do all the pictures that I think would make a great portrait. And I show the client those and I let them pick the final tilt of their head because I think, you know, I really want them to be happy, but I'll interject my thoughts as well because it's a collaborative effort. Right. I know a lot of artists who don't show the client any reference photographs, don't like to do that. For me, I like to do that because I want them to know what to expect. I want them to be really happy with the end result. And the finished painting's always going to look so much better than a photograph, right? Because you have the texture, the viscosity of paint, the, you know, transparency, the just everything that a painting has. It should be so much better than a photograph. And so if I can, I like to do a final sitting from life. That's not always the case, you know, like that I can do that. But yeah, and then to have an unveiling in the end. So.
Right. And that's really that's so, I'm glad that we were able to talk about that because, you know, going from here to here, you know, a lot of people just don't know how to do it and they're terrified of commissioned artwork. I'm one of the ones that I try to shy away from commissioned portraits because when I have done them, I've had persnickety customers. And so to hear your experience on how you do it is really good because a lot, you know, it's difficult to, like some people only paint from life. Some people paint from photos only. I've got a friend, Sheila, she paints from photos all the time because 90% of her customers for her portraits are off of her Etsy store.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so, you know, she's always painting from photos, never having the opportunity to see the client face to face. And to me, that's a challenge right there. And that, to me, I'm like, that scares the daylights out of me. But she does very well at that.
And even if you can't like paint from life, that to me, if you can have a conversation with them, especially if you can have a conversation in person and just talk to them. And, you know, you can be doing painting in your head, like making notations about skin tone colors, things like that, just to really get a sense of who they are and how you would paint it if you were able to paint them from life.
Right. And that's really, you know, I mean, when you paint from life, to me, you're getting a little bit, even if it is just an initial sketch, you're getting a little bit of you're finding their personality.
Exactly.
You're finding out who they are, their little quirks, their mannerisms. Like you were saying, there's the on-screen Jane Seymour, and then there's the Jane Seymour off camera at home what she really like, and that's.
Yeah. And I mean, and with her, it's subtle because she's generally like, she's very down to earth. So she's generally just herself. But there's, when you're in front of the camera, it's just like in flashbulbs going off. I mean, you're not as relaxed as,
Right.
I mean, I think for celebrity, she's very relaxed, but it's just.
But yeah, she's working.
Yeah.
When she's in front of the camera. So if you you wouldn't want to use, you wouldn't want to watch Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman as your references to paint her, because that's her pretending to be somebody else.
Yeah.
So that's not the real her. There's a little bit of her obviously going to come through, but at the same time, that's her job. She's working and she's pretending to be somebody else. She's acting. So that's not the real person. So when you sit down with her and you can talk to her and look at her, or if it's a man, the same, whoever the person is, you get that. Now the person.
Yeah,
so.
Even if someone acts similar in both instances, like for instance, if I do a demo at Portrait Society and I'm on stage, I don't, my personality is the same, but I have like a scarf on and earrings and I'm like dressed up. Most of the time I'm in jeans and t-shirt when I'm at home. So
yeah,
there's just, you sit a little differently. If I'm like doing,
right.
I'm going to sit up straight. If I'm at home, I'm just kind of like,
right. Yeah. I mean, I shave 2 days a week for this show and for church, and that's it. That's it. I mean, it's, I got to look good. I got to look good 2 days a week. Yeah, that's just how it is. That's how it is. I get a haircut once a month, maybe,
I know. I haven't cut my hair in like 6 months and it's dragging down to like past my waist right now. So.
Yeah. Well, hey, count your blessings, because my hair only grows this way now. It doesn't grow this way anymore. It's just this way. Yeah. My wife cuts my hair, and every time she cuts my hair, she says, when that bald spot meets this bald spot, you got to shave the whole thing. I'm like, thanks, dear. She loves me. She loves me and my bald spots. So,
speaking of like, just, how we're joking around and stuff, it's really like going back to the portrait commission. It's very essential for the client to feel comfortable in your presence and feel like they can be themselves and can relax, and I've sat a couple times for someone kind of unexpectedly, but, once for Richard, where it was just sudden. And he just said, "Oh, can you model for us today?" And then he turned it into a whole video, which I wasn't expecting, which is a really good video because Scott Burdick filmed it and they, get in tight on the brushwork and stuff. So it's like you're in his studio, that experience. Then I was painted by Michael Shane Neal because I was visiting him in his studio and he was teaching a class and he asked for me to sit for him. And what was nice is I know Shane from, Portrait Society, and I felt really comfortable in his studio. So I think if it had been someone I didn't know, and this just goes in the mannerisms, I might have been sitting like, oh gosh, am I moving, sitting really still. But because it was Shane, I was able to relax. And I felt like he really captured me in a relaxed state,
Right. He's one guy I want to get him on the show too.
Oh, he's fantastic. You should definitely interview. I'll put in a good word.
That's it. Put in a good word for us. Telling me I went on this guy Tim's show and it was the best show in the universe and blah blah blah. You got to go on. So, fingers crossed we'll get him on.
You still have like half an hour. No, just kidding.
What's that?
I said we'll see. You still have like half an hour, but so far it's looking good. Right. I'm just kidding. No, Shane is great.
You're doing a good job. I'm really we've been having some good stuff. You've given us a lot of meat, so this is really good.
Oh,
this
good.
is really good.
I'll enjoy to talk to you. You're very easy to talk to.
We've had some good stuff here. So let's talk about something that we talked about yesterday, and you said that you never get to talk about this, so we're going to talk about this today because this is the Gagnon Atelier, and
I don't remember what it was.
Well, we're going to talk about how your faith interjects with your art.
Oh, okay.
And so I wanted to ask you about that because I know you're a Christian and you've been I can see in your paintings. I can see it.
Oh,
it's obvious to your old pal Tim. When I look at your artwork, I'm like, yeah, there's something going on there. and I can see it, and you're not painting like me. I paint biblical narratives. That's what I do. That's pretty much all I paint is biblical narratives and puppy portraits. That's what I do. I paint a lot of pet portraits.
That's a cute combination.
Yeah, no, it's like those don't go together. All dogs go to heaven, so yes, it does.
You might need to paint like a St. Francis portrait with the animals.
Yeah, that's what I need to do. But you're not painting biblical narrative scenes. You're not painting, Jesus and the fish and the loaves. You're not doing things like that. But when I see your paintings, like the one of your friend who's praying, it comes through. I can see it, there's a spirituality, there's a depth that's there in your paintings that, to me, I see it. And I think that the shared spirit that you recognize it. And because of that, and I've heard you talk about it in the past, and I know enough about you to know these things. But I wanted to ask you about that. You've traveled to Italy, you've traveled to Israel. I saw a picture of you. You got to paint inside the tomb.
That was really
like the tomb of
probably
Jesus.
The only thing that topped painting at the castle.
Yeah. It's like, how do you trump painting in a castle? You paint in the tomb of Jesus. Tell, please, just a little bit. What was it like?
That was just incredible. So the story, actually, I was brought out there. I had been in Italy, and I was brought out to Jerusalem with a small group that was going on a scouting location, and we were actually, a huge group of us artists were supposed to be there in March, but then the pandemic hit and we couldn't. But we were going to be on a big painting trip, and they were going to be filming a lot of it so that people can see it, and they, we're going to turn it into some kind of documentary. And so that will still happen, probably just in the future when things are safe to travel. But so since I was already in Europe, they said, hey, can we bring you over as an artist with our, a couple other artists and people that are heading this up to kind of scout out locations and give us some feedback. And I said, oh my gosh, yes, twist my arm. I've always wanted to go to Jerusalem. So one of the days we went to the Garden Tomb, and it was closed that day to the public. It was on Sunday. It was actually on Father's Day, which was kind of special. And the groundskeeper was so lovely, and our guide knew him and had, spent a lot of time in Jerusalem and knew him. And so he invited, there were about, how many, I think there were 5-6 of us, to paint outside the tomb. And so we're just sitting and painting the doorway. And it was just a beautiful day, and, birds chirping, and just so peaceful. And it was just, I was thinking, I'm just so thankful to be here. Then the president of the Preservation Society, who's from England, came in and was unexpectedly there from out of town. Like, we didn't know he was going to be there. He didn't know we were going to be there. And he turned out he was an artist as well. So he was thrilled to see us painting there. And he brought us inside the tomb, which we had already walked in. And the actual place where Jesus was laid is blocked off by some bars. So it's a locked room. And he unlocked it for us. And he said, normally we only let blind people go in here so they can feel around because they can't see it. And so, but he let us in, and we were able to kneel in there. And it was just a really beautiful moment. One of our friends, Isaac, is an amazing singer. He sang a hymn in there, and it was just, goosebumps. And I had taken some photos looking from inside out the door to the garden because it was so beautiful. And I knew I wanted to paint that when I got home. Mm-hmm. And the president of the society, Preservation Society said, this is the best view looking out. He said, why don't you bring your paints in here? And I said, what? I was completely stunned. And he goes, yeah, you guys should paint in here. So I went in there, set up my paints, and it took me a while because I was literally crying.
Oh, how could you not?
It was just so emotional because I'm sitting here, and right to the left of me, like a foot away, is where the body had been laid. And I'm looking outside the tomb, and I'm just like imagining the transcendence of just him walking out of the tomb, and it was just the most beautiful morning. And I'll share this little personal story. I had this moment where, it's Father's Day. And of course I was going to call my father later, and who I'm very close to, but it was like probably 5 a.m. in New Mexico. But I called him as I was sitting there, and I wished him happy Father's Day. And I said, guess where I am?
Oh
guess where I'm
God.
calling you from? And he was like, I'm so glad you called me. He's like, it's worth waking up for.
That is, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. So you're plein air painting inside the empty tomb.
Yes.
And you're painting the same
And again,
view.
thank God I don't spill paint. I'm very.
Yeah, you don't spill paint in there. I think Jesus would be like, spill all the paint you want, baby. Spill all the paint you want. It's okay. But I can't. I'm just sitting here, as a Christian.
How you're feeling is how I was feeling. So it was really hard to concentrate because it was.
I bet, but I'm just like, you're literally painting the scene that he saw.
Yes.
When he walked out. And that's just like, oh my God. I mean, just the ramifications and I don't know how you painted it.
I don't, it was just, it's a very simple kind of abstract painting because one, it was a little dark from, I did not bring the light that goes to my easel, and I was kicking myself for not bringing it. But it was just, I knew it was about the experience. And I got some color reference, and I'll probably do a larger painting of it, from the photos I got and from the reference, because of course I never want to sell that painting. That was just a beautiful experience. And
just blows my mind. Just blows my mind. What an amazing story, and that had to change your life. I mean, it's just, people visiting the tomb get their lives changed by it, but to have the experience that you had there, and as an artist, wow.
It was just so incredible. And what was really neat is the people I were with, they were all people of faith. And so every morning we would pray and just be like, okay, God, you lead this day. Like, you guide us where we need to go, put us in contact with the people we need to, be put in contact with, just to have, we were there to paint, but we were also there to learn, because we all, were believers. And it was just, to me, to walk in some of the areas where Jesus walked was just incredible to me. And of course, the culture, even if you're not Christian, going there, it's the oldest area of civilization in the entire world.
Yeah.
It is the birthplace of every, civilization. And it's just, it's the oldest stonework, we have, available to see. It's just, it's incredible. But then, adding into it, because of my faith, it was just very emotional, at times in a very, very good way. And
right, my friend Melody, who is watching right now, she goes on archaeological digs there every year, and they have found things that are like super old and amazing, from the Bible, cities in the Bible.
Yes.
And she's been working on this particular dig of a certain city there from the Old Testament. And when they find a pot or whatever, she draws it for the reference.
Incredible. Our guide took us to an antique dealer who works with one of the museums out there. So he's like a certified antique dealer, and they excavate a lot of things. And so we were able to hold like some of the oil lamps from the time of Christ and different things like that. It was just incredible. This pottery.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you were on this kind of like, you were on a tour of Israel with a guide, but you were going for like plein air painting spots.
Yeah, so it wasn't like a tourist
like an art
guide.
tour.
This guide was from the U.S. He was a scholar, and he had been brought in on this project that's will eventually be like a multi-European city kind of group show. But it has to do with the Holy Land and moments of faith. And there's some, the subject matter is very broad, but they wanted to take us there as kind of inspiration and show us all of the different cultural aspects. So, So he knew we were painters, and he knew, for him, he even said it was really fun because he said, wow, artists, they're so different. He said, you guys want to see and touch everything. You're like touching everything, And so he said, always one of you will wander off, but it'll be like a different one. And I have to wait for you. But he loved it, seeing that. And we even had that day, I'll share just one other quick little experience that was pretty amazing. And to me, it's a little bit of like, letting God lead your path, so to speak, is after we had that day painting at the tomb, we put our stuff back in the car, and I'm just still like, I can't believe that happened. Oh my gosh, so grateful. We decide to go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is, so there are two spots where they, scholars differ on where the tomb is, the one where I painted one, and then there's another one in the Holy Sepulchre. A lot of evidence is pointing to the one where I painted out is the real one, but then where the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is where the actual crucifixion took place. And right. So where the rock is, I'm sure you know all of this, they built this huge church around it. Now this is a huge multi-room church because it doesn't just serve Christians, it serves, and I believe, if I don't get this incorrect, like Greek Orthodox and also Arabic cultures. Like it has different rooms for different faiths, which is really neat. It's very, everyone believing in Christ, but different sects of different faiths. And
right, so different denominations are represented.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just beautiful architecture. And as we're walking in there, our guide said, one of the neat stories about this church is they didn't want just one faction to have the power in the church. So the keys have been entrusted to someone's family 300 years ago, and it's passed down in that family, and they come and open the church every morning. So all the different faiths can go in there. And he's telling us the story, and I'm like, wow, this is fascinating, right? And we go in, hundreds of people. I mean, many rooms. I've never been in a church that have so many rooms. And to me, I've been in Paris at Notre Dame. This was like more, rooms than that. And at one point, I just wanted to go downstairs and look into this, lower room. And everyone else was waiting for me while I went downstairs. And our guide explained that people come from all over and they go to touch this area where a piece of the original cross was found. And he's like, just observe people. Some people have saved their whole lives to come here because they feel like they come to pray for family members that are ill and things like that. And it's just, he said, one of the more fascinating things is just seeing people's faith when they go to a place like this. And so I walked down, and there was a man in a business suit. Looked like he came off of Wall Street in New York, but he was leaning down, touching the ground. And I was just kind of fascinated watching him. And then there was another gentleman there, standing there, and he just turns to me and he goes, oh, hi, where are you from? And he starts talking to me, and he says, I'm the gatekeeper. And I was like, what? And he said, no, my family is the one that holds the keys. And he proceeds to take out his phone and show me pictures of him with all of our past presidents.
Oh, wow.
And out of hundreds of people, I feel like in this weird, like God directed me here to this spot where this man starts talking to me, and he's the one who holds the keys.
Right.
And he said, and he spoke kind of broken English, and he said, come with me. And he's grabbing my hand, and I'm like, I have friends. And right then one of my friends came down to get me, like, why are you taking so long? And we told him our group was here, and he said, all of you come. And we didn't know where he was taking us. And he took us to this door, and our guide that was with us, who knows the ins and outs of this church and has been to Jerusalem many times, he's like, no, he can't be taking us where I think he's taking us. Like, if he's taking us where, he's like, this is unbelievable. And he takes us into this door that's guarded. And we go, it was truly like an Indiana Jones moment. Wow. He takes us into this hallway, into the back rooms down, and you see antiques and like on these stone walls, and just, it just, to me, my reference as an American, I was like, it looks like Indiana Jones. And then I'm like, no, this is what Indiana Jones was trying to look like, because it's real, And he takes us down into the lower part of the church where, so Golgotha, the rock where Jesus was crucified, where the cross was put, they have the top of it enshrouded in glass. And so people stand in line just to kind of touch one bare area. So he took us down to the bottom where all of the rock is bare. Because, back thousands of years ago, the ground was a lot lower, of course. So he took us down to the actual, ground where it was in the time of Jesus, where the early pilgrims in 30 AD would come and worship. And our guide said, no one is allowed back here except the high priests, and like National Geographic was able to come once. And he was like, I can't believe we're back here. And there was an old drawing of a ship. And if you see the National Geographic special on Jerusalem, you can see this area. There's an old drawing from 30 AD of a fisherman's ship that some, pilgrims had drawn, and they have it encased and enshrouded. And so we got to have this amazing experience, and it was just incredible. It was just so incredible. So
those are divine appointments.
Yes.
It's just amazing how God just sets things up for you to have those interactions and those. It's just, God just opens the door and says, come here, come look at this. Oh man, this is awesome.
It was amazing. And that was the neat thing about traveling with these people. Yeah, we did have a job to do, which is scout out painting locations for the other artists that would come, because it would be hard to find a painting location when you have 25 artists in tow, right? But we really just didn't have an exact agenda, and that was the beautiful thing. It's like we knew we wanted to hit certain spots, and the guide orchestrated that. But then it's like leaving time up, not being so controlling about it. I try to be that way in my painting too, and even career choices, is to, I have goals and I'm ambitious, and there's certain things that I want to do, but really, like, I want to be led by God and what to do at the right time in the right way, because it's not just about me, right? It's about every other person you encounter on that journey, and blessing other people as well. So, and we can't know that. It's the same way when I teach, I just pray, like, I don't know exactly what everyone needs to hear, right? I tell people I'm an open book. I'll share anything I know about painting, but I always ask for guidance, because I don't know what someone exactly is struggling with. I might just be meeting them for the first time in class. And it's been amazing, some of the experiences I've had after class, where a student comes and says, you said the exact thing I was struggling with, and I don't know how you knew that, and that to me is like just divine guidance. And I bring that up because, since you brought up faith, is that divine guidance is available to everyone, if we just open ourselves up to it.
Right. Yeah. And that's, it's such a powerful thing when you incorporate your faith with your art. God does something. God has a special place in his heart for the artist. Yeah. And we know that from the Bible. The Bible talks about artists quite a bit, and I'm reminded of Bezalel and Aholiab from the book of Exodus. God told Moses, you go get those two guys, because I have particularly blessed them and given them skill, and I want to use them to build the Ark of the Covenant and all of the utensils and the entire tabernacle. I want them to do it, because I've made them artists for this task, and being an artist is such a beautiful thing. He told Moses, build a sculpture, when they were going through the wilderness, and the serpents started biting them, the vipers, and he built we call it the bronze serpent. God is an artist. He's a creator. And I like the quote that I use to kind of explain how I feel about art and being an artist is do you remember the movie Chariots of Fire?
Vaguely. I do remember it was really good, but I don't remember all the details. I was pretty young.
So the story is about, obviously, a guy that runs really fast, right? Well, in the story, his family is actually missionaries in China.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And they were super offended that he wanted to be in the Olympics. They didn't like it because he left China to go be in the Olympics. And they thought he was betraying his Christian faith. And that because he was seeking after Olympic glory and, basically self, you should be selfless. You shouldn't seek the glory of a gold medal, blah, blah, blah. And his sister came from China basically to come get him and bring him back to China. And there's a scene in the movie where he's talking, and it's a true story. And he's talking to his sister, and he said, yes, God gave me a purpose. He created me for a purpose, which for their family, that meant evangelism and missionary work. He says, God made me for a reason, but he also made me fast. And when I run, I feel his pleasure. See? And so for me,
I've got to rewatch that movie. That's a good one.
Yeah. It's but for me, I take that same mindset and I go, God made me an artist. And when I'm painting, when I'm drawing, when I'm creating, I feel my creator's pleasure.
Yes.
Because I'm doing exactly what he created me to be. And that's a powerful way to worship him. Because nobody draws like you, nobody paints like you, nobody paints like me. We may paint similar, but it's like a fingerprint.
Yes.
And when we worship God through our art, it's a very intimate form of worship that nobody else in the world can do.
It is. It's a co-creation.
So when you paint with your dad, your heavenly dad, that to me is what it is. And so for me, painting is more than just painting. It's more than just a job. Doesn't matter if I'm painting puppy portraits or I'm painting Samson, with the jawbone of a donkey, it doesn't matter. I'm worshiping. That's how I worship is through my art. And so to me, it's not this and this, my faith and my art. It's all mushed together.
That's how it is to me too. And it's like, I shared this once in a writing or something, but to me, painting is my way of saying amen visually. To say, I'm in agreement, the root, word amen, from the original word means I am in agreement with,
Yeah, it means so be it. Yeah.
And so I know you know that, but just for the people out there, but so to me, when I am painting, I'm saying I am in agreement with the beauty, the mystery, the wondrousness of this amazing world. And so it is like saying amen visually to me.
It really is. And that's a beautiful, beautiful way to think about it. Saying amen visually. I love it. Boy, this has been such a great conversation. I could talk for hours about this.
I feel like we're having church.
I know. Yes. A little bit amen, a little bit Jesus, glory to God.
Yeah.
My wife hates it when I do that. Actually, no, it makes her laugh every time. But yeah, boy, we need to have you come back on and talk about this some more. This would be a great, we could talk about that for days.
Yeah.
But it's just, wow, what a great conversation. I can't thank you enough for coming on. This was awesome. You gave us some art tips. We talked about your journeys and your adventures and meeting people. We learned about your process with a commission for a portrait. I mean, there's so much you gave us today. I just can't thank you enough. I know.
Wow, the time we've been on an hour and a half. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I got a clock watching it. I'm like, perfect time, But yeah, so just thank you very much for coming on. And
thanks so much for having me.
We're going to have you come back.
And I look forward to looking at some of your work so I can see it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on. I'm going to do my little goodbyes to the audience, but we're going to say goodbye to you right now, and I'll talk to you in just a few minutes.
And Tim, can I ask you before you leave? I don't know if there were people, I can't see any of the questions. If there were any questions that we need to address, or
we mostly had people going, this show is so exciting. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona watching. People are just chiming in saying how much they loved it and how much they were enjoying listening to you.
Okay.
But no questions. So you must have been, they were just so blown away by your stories. They were flabbergasted.
Thanks guys for watching.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Michelle. We will talk to you.
Thanks, Tim, for having me on.
Excellent. Didn't I tell you guys? Wow, what a great, man, this was a good show. Dude. I just went totally 1985 on you there. Man, I'm having so much fun doing the Modern Masters podcast. I hope that you are enjoying it too. My goodness, I can't wait to continue this journey with you. So with that said, guys, you know, if you can like our page, the Gagnon Atelier on Facebook, if you can subscribe to our Gagnon Atelier YouTube channel, I would really appreciate that. We also have a lot of new content coming on. So share this video so people can learn about Michelle and all the great, beautiful artwork that she has. I mean, it's just what an amazing, amazing artist and person. I mean, I'm so glad that I got to meet her. I can't wait to get to know her more. And I know that if you check her out, her website and her social media, that you will be impressed and blessed. So with that said, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on. I'm your old pal, Tim. And just remember, God loves you, and so do I. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.